Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, the audio version of our Facebook Live series, Art Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists like you that it is completely possible to make a great career out of this art thing. And if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. Hello, Artist Academy members, advanced members, everybody. So this is a little bit of a different one. This is not this is not really the tips and tricks of the art business. However, I have been asked now twice here recently how to start a podcast. Actually, 3 times now that I think about it. How to start a podcast, what does it entail? And so I just wanted to kind of come on and talk about, as a beginner in this industry, podcasting, I'm not super far along. The podcast does not bring in buku bucks. I'm just kind of, just doing it when I can, doing interviews, converting the interviews to podcasts. And I just want to talk a little bit about how to do a podcast, and also just to give you a little insight, I'm going to also talk about why I thought I would never do a podcast ever. And just a hint is because I have this little stutter that happens when I get nervous or when I don't have enough sleep. And so that reason was the first reason I thought there's no way I would ever have a podcast. I would stutter through the whole thing. Oh my gosh. Really, it's like a serious problem. Hopefully you haven't noticed it, but likely, I don't know. Sometimes the words just don't come out like I want them to. And that was a big, big fear. Sometimes I'll get stuck on a word. I physically can't say the word. I'll have to say a different word. Just a weird stuttering thing. I don't know. Anyway, so I want to get through to my reservations about it, what I've learned from podcasting, and also just a how-to. So that if you're out there and you either want to know the behind the scenes or you're thinking that you might possibly start a podcast, it is a really good way to connect with your future customers and get a lot of information out there to the masses in a really easy way, even if people will not become your customer. I know that there are several people listening to this who will never become my customer. And I know that there are people so I'm talking mainly about the people who are listening from maybe India or Venezuela or something, and they're in the currency rates are it wouldn't make sense for you to buy one of my products because it's 20 times the amount someone in the United States would pay. And so I think of them when I'm here's free information. And I'm also thinking about the person who isn't quite ready to apply for whatever I have going on, and they need some more free information. They need to realize that I do know what I'm talking about enough to want to be coached by me. And then having a podcast is a really good way to just speak to you and show you that I am very real and that I'm very honest. And these podcasts are hardly at all edited. I'm just going to throw that out there too. But I'm going to go through the whole editing process and everything. So let's get started. Okay, so let's just start with how to. and then I'll go into the other stuff. How do I make a podcast? I'm currently sitting here in my spare bedroom, which is I converted into my painting studio. And so I'm looking at a painting that I should be doing. Like literally it's right across the room from me. I'm just staring at it. And I should be painting right now, but I'm here podcasting because my want to spread this knowledge is a little bit more than my want to paint right now. But I will get back to it. Anyway, okay, so I'm sitting here and I do have a mic. However, the interviews are not done with a mic. They are done with an iPhone, just an iPhone mic on there. So there's absolutely nothing special about it. And doing the interviews from Facebook Live, I was a little hesitant because the quality isn't what you get some of the time from listening to these other really good podcasts, you know? So a lot of people have like a really fancy mic and their guests are everything's top notch. And I was like, well, I got to start. So I'll start somewhere. And I converted our Facebook Live conversations to a podcast. And how you do that, I'll just start with that right there. Basically, I go on Facebook Live and hope that the connection is good. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you guys can hear, obviously, some of the cut-ins and cut-outs. But sometimes, I guess you guys don't really care. Nobody's complained. That's one thing I just want to share. Like, either you guys are holding it back or no, you guys don't really care that sometimes the audio cuts out or sometimes people don't sound the best. And I'm just going to pretend that you don't mind and that you would rather have the content over a super, super high quality mic because I never hear it. Like I never get a complaint of, oh, that was hard to listen to. It's always positive on whatever the guest has to say, or especially if they inspired them in some way, it's always positive. And it's never bad. Maybe you're just not telling me. I don't know. Or maybe the people who are thinking it's bad are just tuning off. I'm just going to assume you guys all love it because we do have 5 stars. Also, if you could please rate us 5, like rating a podcast is huge. Rating it and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes, like that is so huge. If you are listening, I'm just going to stop right here and just say really quick, if you are listening if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you go into, and when you see all of the episodes, so just you see all the episodes right there, scroll down and you'll see, like scroll down and you'll see ratings. You'll actually see a 5.0 right now. We have like 50 some ratings, almost 60, and we have a 5.0 right now, luckily. But that's why I think you guys are all way too nice. And just hit that rating right there. Hopefully 5 stars, but do whatever you want and just rate it and leave a review if you could. That would be amazing because that really helps to push this out and for other people to see it. So what happens when people are listening to other art business podcasts, they will get recommended this one and people will come over and they'll enjoy our little world that we've got going on over here in our Art Academy world. So if you could please just take a second while you're listening to this, just right now, you can do it right now and still listen and just say like, hey, Andrew's awesome or whatever, or whatever you've gotten from this, whatever you've taken from it, and recommend it because I would really appreciate it. So yeah, okay. You can also do it if you're listening on Stitcher. It has to be on your computer, I've learned. And then if you're on Spotify, you can only leave a comment and follow, which I'll take whatever. But then screenshot your review to me. Send it to me on Instagram as preferred. Send it to me on Instagram. Screenshot your review, and I will post you on my story. I will shout you out and put your art in front of my 50-some thousand followers so they can decide if they want to follow you as well. And that's my, thank you for you helping me help you. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we do those Facebook Lives. We do guests, and I like to do the Facebook Live because video is everything, and I can repurpose that video for YouTube, and people can interact in it in the Facebook group. So even though the quality isn't the best. You get more interaction, and I feel like it just goes further, and I'm not sure why no one else is doing this right now. I'm really not sure. And I think maybe it's because of the quality, but no one else is doing it. Like, this is summer of 2019, and no one's putting podcasts on Facebook Lives, and I'm not sure why. Fully, because it really is great. I love it. And people get to interact and ask questions, and that's just not a thing that happens during podcasts, unless it's like a radio show. Anyway, so we do that interview, and then, so I had to do this whole thing. I had to learn how to do this, and then I taught my VA, Adriana, who is editing this podcast right now, how to do it. So, hey, Adriana. And really, there's hardly any editing that goes into it. She just kind of makes sure that I don't, stop and, hold my breath or think of something to do, or just have a big coughing fit or anything. That might get edited out, but really, very little gets edited out of this podcast. It's really only needs edited if I lose connection with the guest. That will get edited out, because that just doesn't need to be there. But I don't edit out the ums or the sneezes or the little coughs or any of that, because I think it's just, this is real life. I think I recorded one the other day, and someone started mowing the lawn. Our neighbor came over and started mowing our lawn because it was just the grass is too high. And I was like, oh man, you could hear that. And I just kept it in. I was like, whatever. Anyway, hardly any gets edited out. But I started out editing, and so I'm going to tell you how. I have since then passed it on to my VA, Adriana. So now I can record. She puts it together, and she puts it into Spreaker, which I will get to in just a second. Okay. I'll try to get to the point so I don't waste too much of your time on this. But, okay, so you download it from Facebook, and there's a way to do that. Just Google it if you can't figure it out, but you download it from Facebook, and I uploaded it into iMovie, and Adriana uploads it into her editor, but I'm pretty sure you can just use a video editor. I'm sure that there's a way to do this with a voice-only editor, but I'm not familiar with that, so I use a video editor. So I download that Facebook video, the Facebook Live, and put it into iMovie, and edit out whatever needs to. Really hardly any of it, but I edit out the beginning, maybe if it got cut out, and then you go to save it, and when you're on your desktop on iMovie, you go to save it, and you save it as an MP4 file. So you don't save it as a video, you save it as an audio-only MP4 file. Really, that saves a ton, because there's a huge difference in file size in a video and an audio. So you save it as an audio-only, as an MP4 file, file, and you upload, okay, so, hold on, I skipped a step. So, going back to editing in an iMovie, I have pre-recorded an intro and an ad for a sponsored by ad, which you've heard. Those are pre-recorded, and those are, I recorded those 6 months ago, and I'm still using them, so I don't have to do that every time. And an outro that's just saying that you'll hear at the end of this. That's just hey, thanks for listening. Leave a review. See you next week. So all those three things, the intro, the ad, and the outro, are all pre-recorded, and they get put in when you're editing it in iMovie. And then you save it as a MP4 file. And then you upload it to Spreaker. And I'm not going to go in too much on the intro and outro. You kind of do it at whatever you want. I will say one thing, adding music to it, as you've heard, if you go to soundstripe.com, I am getting no referrals from this, although I should. You can download, what is it? It's not cruelty-free. Royalty-free. It's cruelty-free. You can download royalty-free music that you can use as you wish. So it's Soundstripe. I think I pay $15 a month. So I'll use it for a month, and I'll download a bunch of stuff, and then I'll cancel. And then next year I'll do the same thing, and I'll just take a bunch off for that 1 month. Just a bunch of music, because I use it for my videos. I use it for this, and that. But I found just a quick tune that I liked on Soundstripe, and I uploaded it into iMovie and made the intros and outros. That's it. Okay. And then we upload it into Spreaker. After you have that, it's uploaded into Spreaker, Spreaker. That's how I do it. There are several others out there that you can use. I just use Spreaker. It's really great. Like, I've been using it for a while now, and I've had no problems for like 6 months. I think this is like the 6th month that this podcast is going, which is crazy. And yeah, so for the first bit, I only did interviews because that's all I can handle. Now, since I've got the interviews on lockdown and that's so easy to do, I've started adding in solo shows, as you've noticed. And just because, like, I'm a very big believer in just, like, wading in the water, getting one thing down before you overcommit yourself, and then adding on to it. So I got the interviews down before I started adding solo shows, so it didn't overwhelm me. And when I'm doing solo shows, I'm sitting here. There's a mic that I got for like $100 or something. It's Apogee. It plugs straight in to my Mac, and I use QuickTime. So if you're an Apple user, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's not on Apple, but QuickTime. I just go in there and I have a QuickTime player, and you go to File and you do New Audio Recording, and you press play. And that's it. And it's just recording right now. So my mic is plugged into my Mac. My Mac is recording off of QuickTime. Super easy. And then I'll stop this, and this is just purely an audio file, and I'll send it to Adriana and it can be edited, and she'll put the intro and outro on it. And then she'll upload it into Spreaker. And so Spreaker, you sign up, I think you get like, I don't know, an hour's worth or so of record time for free, and then you have to pay for after so many episodes. I don't know. So that way you can kind of try it out without actually buying into it. And from there, you'll broadcast it into iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and wherever else you want to do it. So you upload it into Spreaker, you give it a name, or you give it a title, a catchy title. That's a whole other thing. Just giving it a short, catchy title that makes people want to open. So this is probably something like How to Start a Podcast 101. That sounds good. That's probably what I'll name it. And I don't know. I haven't written it out yet. And you add some keywords and everything, and you just upload it to Spreaker. You connect the RSS file. I sound like an old person. RSS file. You connect the RSS file. I just want to make sure you guys hear me. And so you connect it to iTunes and Stitcher and all that, and then you upload it to Spreaker, and Spreaker will broadcast it out to all of those channels whenever you tell it to. So we're recording this one. We'll put it in Spreaker to be broadcasted here in a couple weeks. And so yeah. And I actually just recorded 4 episodes today, which is the most I've ever recorded in one day of solo episodes. I just had a free second. I had a free day, and I was like, I gotta get this done. But usually I'll record like 2 or 1 when I'm feeling it, you know? But yeah, batch working is really big. So record plenty in a day. If you can record 4 in a day, just set yourself up for the next month to like release 1 every month. You're gold, you know? Okay, so that's that. Okay. I mean, there's so much you could get into in just specifics, but I really want this to be like 101 for the beginner. So podcasts for dummies. And so whenever I'm thinking up, if you want to start your own podcast, and I'm more talking to that, there's a couple certain things you should set down, and it's who your audience is. So behind the scenes, my audience, you are aspiring artists or artists who have just started your career. That's my predominantly, like, those are the main ones. I will probably get some established artists on here who want some motivation. I'm here for you. Or who want a little behind the scenes on someone else's art business, or who want to be motivated. But the primary one are aspiring artists, or ones who are just starting their art career, because I can help them the most. They're going to gain the most out of it. Really, I mean, an established artist would as well. I mean, I'm still learning. I listen to podcasts all the time, still learning marketing techniques and all that. But I started this because I listen to podcasts all the time. Like, I never listen to music anymore. I'm always listening to a book or a podcast. And those things really motivate me. It's so much easier for me to get through the day with just listening to a podcast. And I love to hear professionals talk. And it's just what an amazing time we live in, where I can listen to people who are just geniuses in their craft. And I mean, I'm not talking about this one. I'm kind of. But, like the Tim Ferriss podcast, if you guys listen to that one, he is just, I mean, he has some of the most brilliant people on there. And the Goal Digger podcast, The Goal Digger by Jenna Kutcher, that podcast changed hers and Amy Porterfield's. Those two, like, changed my idea of business. It was huge. So, yeah, I love podcasts. And so that's why I want to start my own, because I know the power of podcasts. And I want to spread my message and just blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, to kind of get into, I never thought that I would start a podcast ever. I was like, okay. So, first off, anybody who knows me, like around here, I'll be social if I'm around my girlfriends who I know really well, obviously, like most people. But if we're in a big social setting, I am not the conversation starter. I am not the conversation leader. I'm not the one, I'm just not a big talker. And, like when you're in a table or like you're at like a family event or something, and, your loud uncle reaches or is at the other side of the table and everybody's all talking and he's like, have you ever had this happen to you? I've had this happen to me a million times, not just with my family, but with just like random times. People will just, they see you're being quiet and they're like, Andrea, shut up, or Andrea, quit being so loud. If you're quiet, you've heard that. And I've heard that so many times. And guys, if you do that, stop doing that. It's not that funny. Really. And so for that reason too, like a little stutter, like I have that. And sometimes it's just hard to get things out. And I'm not a big talker. And so listening to podcasts, when I first started, I was like, there is no way I would be able to carry on a conversation for an hour or 30 minutes. But surprise! I guess it's when it's something you're really passionate about, you can do it. However, when I first started doing tutorials and courses and trying to just say what I was thinking, it was really, really hard. And I started that at the beginning of the year this year, and it was really hard for me to just verbalize what I was saying. I actually had to write everything out when I was doing the Print Perfect course. Everything was written out perfectly ahead of time. I can write. It's just saying things off the cuff. It's kind of hard. But written down, I can write all day. And so from doing that, and then from doing Facebook Lives, and from doing all of that, I've really come into my own lately of like being able to just carry on a conversation with my mic and also with guests too. Like I am learning how to be a good interviewer. And so if you want to interview someone, if you're here because you want to do the interview process, one thing that I learned quickly in the first few episodes, and I'm almost shameful to bring it up because if you listen back to the first episode and the second and the third and the fourth, like you'll hear me interrupt them quite a bit. And I noticed that after listening back to it. And I was like, oh, I need to shut up. Like, it's not about me. When I'm interviewing someone, it's about them. And I was on a different podcast and he kept interrupting me. And I was like, oh, I need to not do that. And it's something you don't really realize because when you're having a conversation with someone, you want to put your input in. However, when you're interviewing, it's a different thing. So let your guests talk. That is one thing I have had to learn. And it's just a fine line. Like social cues don't come super easy for me. So knowing when to carry the conversation on and when to let them talk I'm still learning that. And that's another one. Just learning to shut up. And sometimes people don't want to hear about me. And sometimes I'll interject and say something, and I can tell the guest is a little thrown off because they had something to say, and I interrupted, and I'm like, oh shoot, sorry. Okay, you can go on. Also with guests, I've noticed that I send them, whenever I ask them to be on the podcast. Right now, I ask them primarily. A few people have asked me to be on the podcast, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah. If they're if you're a full-time artist, you're doing well and you're kicking butt, and it looks like you're doing things professionally, yeah, I'm gonna interview you on here. And what was I saying? Oh man. So I sent out a PDF full of, hey, this is how you do a Facebook Live. These are the questions I'm going to ask you, because I ask the same questions every time. Sometimes they're a little different, and sometimes they'll get carried on in conversation, and sometimes they're altered, but generally they're the same questions. I send them a whole 2-page PDF, and nobody ever reads it. Let me tell you, nobody reads it ever. And people read the questions, but they don't read the how to do an interview, if they do. And it's usually, and you can tell, because every time it's hard to get people on. If you ever watch live in the Artist Academy Facebook group, it's hard. It's just I give them everything, but people don't really read it. And so I probably should start doing just a trial run on getting people on Facebook Live before we go live, but whatever. I have to brief people right before, hey, don't forget your headphones, hey, this and that, but yeah, usually it all works out anyway. What else? I have a dream list of people to be on the podcast. Iris Scott, Sophie T. Art, and it's just baffled me too, the people that have said yes that I've asked. So I have sent out a couple hopes and wishes, and people haven't replied. But Maria Brophy, she's been on. What a badass! I'm just so honored to have her on this podcast, and along with several others Brooke Cormier, and several others. And it's just so cool that I get to meet these people. Selfishly, I want to just meet these women and men who are kicking butt in their industry and just learn, their everyday life. It's stuff that I'm curious about, and I want to share it with you, but it stemmed from, hey, I kind of want to just talk to these people, And so it opens me up to a networking thing as well. So I get to network with these amazing artists. And yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's basically it. I'm probably forgetting something. This is an off-the-cuff one as well, but I just wanted to make a behind-the-scenes of the Artist Academy podcast, what's going on. I plan to do this for a really long time, and yeah, that's it. Okay, like I was saying, please leave a review. It takes 20 seconds. It might take 30 seconds if you want to leave a thoughtful message on there, it is awesome, or I love learning this, or whatever. But just scroll down and you'll see where you can leave a review. Send it to me and I will shout you out on my Insta story. It's literally free advertising. Help me help you. Free advertising. You can't turn that down. Okay, I'm out. I actually have to go get ready for a thing. I'm almost gonna run late to this thing that I have to go to because I wanted to do a podcast episode really quick, but that's it. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Let me know if you found this helpful, or if you have any questions that I maybe didn't go over. Let me know. But yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Also, if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/artist Harness Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.